In other news right now, a piece of plane debris has washed up on the French Indian Ocean island of La Réunion. That's just east of Madagascar. It happened on Wednesday, prompting speculation it could be part of the missing Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. The missing plane was last spotted near the southern tip of Vietnam. That's roughly about 3,800 miles away. Joining us now live here on set is the former NTSB Chairman Mark Rosenker. Mr. Rosenker, thank you for being with us. So, all right, let's set the scene. You've got it. It's just east of Madagascar. It's a piece and what's the island called again?
La Réunion.
La Réunion. Okay, so it floats up on the island. Do we think this has anything to do with MH370?
It certainly needs to be examined very carefully. It does appear to be a piece of a wing. It could be a piece of a 777 wing. It could also be a piece of other aircraft. There were two other accidents there in years before, and maybe it's part of that old wreckage.
Is this west of Australia?
This is in an area where, in fact, there could be some of the actual investigation and some of where, in fact, the Australians were looking.
Okay.
But still, a lot more has to be taken from this. We have to actually get this part back to a laboratory where they can then begin to take it apart, see if there are identification numbers on the spars, and that you'll be able to relate back to either a 777 or potentially another aircraft.
Mark, what does the part look like to you?
It does look like a piece of a wing, but it could be a piece of a wing from a number of different types of aircraft. And again, having known that there were two other major aircraft accidents in that area years before, it does provide an opportunity for other things rather than just Malaysia 370.
What could we learn from the wing? What numbers, what identification marks might be on a wing that would help provide information as to where it came from?
If the identification marks, numbers are coming from a Boeing product that is attached to that Malaysian 370 777, we will know for sure that we have found a piece of that aircraft, and from that begin the process of understanding what happened to it and why it happened. It may end up being a rapid decompression rather than a crash. They'll be looking very, very carefully at the actual wing itself to see if the tear marks, if there are other witness marks that are on that actual piece of aircraft to give them clues of what may have happened here.
Mark, look, this whole investigation and what happened to this plane has not only confounded people, but it's flat out frightened people. Planes just don't disappear, right? They just don't go away.
You're absolutely right. And that's why it is so critical to understand exactly what happened here, why it happened, and then you're able to make recommendations to prevent that kind of thing from happening again. Was this something which in fact was a horrible accident, or was it human intervention that created the problem?
If it is in fact a part of the plane, how long does it take parts like that to float to the surface or move with the current and wind up on an island?
It could be a year. It could be years if it's another accident. Remember that the other two were in 2009 and 2006. And weather will move these parts along with currents. But if this is a piece of the 777, which we are all looking for, they'll be able to do a great number of formulas by looking at the currents to backtrack where potentially this aircraft actually was.
I'm looking at does this piece of what could be a wing look large enough to fit that 777?
Certainly could be, but again, we're looking at it by television. You have to actually be able to touch it, look at it, bring it to the laboratory, take it apart, make sure it is a piece of the 777 or another type of aircraft. We will know very soon what it was.
What do you make, Mark, of the fact that by looking at the image, it looks relatively intact?
It could have been a rapid decompression which caused for an explosion potentially in the aircraft. We don't know. There are lots of things that could create a situation where this piece looks the way it looks. We'll know first after we actually take it to the laboratory, begin to actually do the forensics necessary to see if it is a piece of the 777. From there, we can then move on to begin a very basic understanding of what may have happened to the airplane.
Mark, it is fascinating. Thank you for joining us on set, and let's hope that if it is a part of that plane, Let's hope it helps them find the rest of it.
Absolutely.
Mark Rosenker, former NTSB chairman. Sir, thank you for joining us here in New York.
You bet.